Good afternoon for 4 News Now. I'm Rob King. Normally about this time we do the KXLY Plus Daily Rundown where we talk about what the team's working on today. But we have a special report airing tonight at 6 p.m. Made by 4 News Now's Kirstin O'Connor. So instead of our usual daily rundown, I'm going to talk with Kirstin about the process of making that and what she learned throughout it, and hopefully get you to watch. So I'm going to bring in Kirstin now. Kirstin, how are you?
Hey, Rob. Thanks so much for having me on. This is actually a real treat for me because I have had several people tell me that they receive your push alerts and they are a part of the group watching in the afternoons. So it's fun to, take part.
Yeah, I mean, it's a new adventure we're going on, so it's nice to bring other people in and create these new things that we're doing as like a station, and it makes it very exciting.
Absolutely. And this is kind of a platform where we can, peel back the curtain a little bit and explain to people the process journalism. And I won't get too far into the details of everything that we do to make TV news and to create these special reports, but at least I'll get to talk a little bit longer than, your average 2-minute story that you see on television.
Absolutely. That is a perk. We don't have ad constraints, so that's very nice. So Kirstin, why don't you just start with a little bit about what is your special report about? How did it come about?
So, okay, this is just kind of a good overview of how we do reporting in general. In every newsroom, we start with usually just a conversation. It's just, a few people kind of, and it could be in any real business, kind of talking around in the break room or, having a moment as you're eating your donut and having your coffee in the morning with some of your colleagues, what's been going on with you and your kids or, with your spouse or family. And so that's how this started. We had so many conversations and are continuing to have so many conversations since, of course, we've been reporting through the horrific tragedy that happened in Moscow, Idaho. And by now, everyone in the inland Northwest, everyone in the country, and what we've really realized is a lot of people around the world have heard about what happened to those 4 college students that were living in an off-campus home at the University of Idaho. And so a lot of our conversations inside and outside of the newsroom have been about that. They've been about the affidavit that came out. They've been about the details. They've been about, did your family member from New York send you a text message about it? Did somebody hear about it and want to know more information because we had such limited information for such a long period of time? So yeah, again, a lot of conversations had about our coverage, what we can do better, what we are still striving to gain as far as information goes. And one thing that kind of continued to come up among several, I noticed it was kind of a trend with moms in the newsroom, and I'm a mom for anyone who hasn't heard me talk constantly about my daughter, but it does seem to be, you find common concerns with moms. And so one of those concerns was safety. And it wasn't just safety at a college campus, it turned into more just safety in general. Walking your dog or having secured windows in your house. I started having conversations with moms about, have you ever had your home broken into? Have you ever? And I actually did. My family had a break-in when I was a teenager, and so yeah, these are conversations you don't normally have, right? You don't bring that up with people, but it kept getting brought up, and we just thought, you know what, we need to give people some data so that they can see, one, just how rare this type of violent and horrific crime actually is, because we know that what happened in Moscow is an unpreventable tragedy, and it is just one of those situations that, again, we're still learning a lot of information, but we don't believe that there's a lot that could have prevented this from happening as far as what I have learned in my reporting. And so what I can hopefully give the moms and the people who are watching our news is the security that a break-in or that a violent crime like this one is not just rare, it is so incredibly rare, and maybe give them some tools to help with what we're learning is kind of called secondary trauma. So it's trauma. Yeah. So, and then this is something that, again, you don't even realize.
I'd never heard of
maybe
secondary
never even
trauma.
heard of it. Yeah, and you don't even realize that it's kind of happening until someone brings it up. But it's essentially having a vicarious experience through someone else's trauma. So feeling the wounds, the mental wounds that someone else who went through a real trauma was feeling, just by reading about it, by talking about it, by being afraid. Your brain is afraid, and so you are continually having that feeling. And it's something that I spoke with a counselor about here in Spokane. It's something that they are treating people here for in light of the tragedy in Moscow. So
especially with a case like this that was made so public, and we've heard from the parents of the victims and seen their emotion on television, it as a parent, you can empathize more with that.
Right. And that was one thing that was brought up over and over again in my conversations with moms over the past, now it's been a couple of months, is that we heard from the victims' families. They were so courageous and so open in those incredibly vulnerable moments to come out on television and talk to people about their children. And so many parents that I spoke with did not feel comfortable going on camera and having these conversations because they were very concerned that anything that they said may make the victims' families feel any kind of way. They just didn't want in any way to disrespect the family members. And many people, even in Spokane, who I spoke with, had some connection, some 6 degrees of separation from the victims themselves because of summer camps and because of, their own children's boyfriends, girlfriends, family members. They, in some way, were connected. And there's just a lot of concern about respecting not only the victims' families, but also the police department in Moscow, because as a lot of people know, and if you don't know, you can read more about it on kxly.com, but there is a gag order in place right now that is preventing journalists from really learning much of any information about the case at this point. And so we were not able to interview the Moscow Police Department for my story. We were not able to interview really any law enforcement in the greater inland Northwest because of this gag order, or so they explained to me over email and over the phone.
You, as a parent, I'm not a parent, but you have this, would you call it like a duty to protect your children? It's so important. And some of the things you were talking about with mothers, what were they saying as far as, the lengths they go to protect their children?
Sure. So, I mean, it varied, of course, and my daughter is 2. So some of the things that I spoke with moms who have, even kids in middle school, their comments about this or their reactions to this were very different from moms who have kids that are college aged. And then some moms have kids in all different age categories. They have 4 kids. So they really can be relatable. But I think the main thing that people were telling me was that they thought that communication was the best thing that they could do to put their minds at ease or to find some peace of mind as we're continuing to deal with this. Because as the psychologist told me, this is kind of a marathon situation. We are going to continue to get more and more information as we go to trial. And every time this case gets brought back up, it may or may not make those feelings of fear come back up. And so that I thought was very important, and we'll kind of dive into that deeper in the special report. But again, as a mom, their reactions were all over the map. Some people said, the limited time that I have to watch the news, I just got the new detail and then I turned it off. Or they just read an article on kxly.com quickly to get the latest, whatever the update was, and then they were done. Because moms are busy,
Sure.
usually, packing lunches and such. But, when it comes to safety, I think a lot of people spoke to one another about it. I had one mom tell me that she had a group of friends, all with college-aged kids, who had a group chat. And at one point they had to say in the group chat, we have to stop talking about this. We have to, because it's all we're talking about all of the time. And so it was obviously people were following it every step of the way, just as news reporters we were. Another thing that was different and interesting was I had a mom who told me that her daughter had martial arts experience and some self-defense classes, but they went a step further in making her feel safe, because she actually does attend the University of Idaho. And so before she went back to school, they took it a step further, and that's something we'll dive deeper into. I think moms who have young, toddlers like I do, thought more about security cameras. They thought more about having conversations with their play dates, the parents of their play dates, about what kind of security do you use? Just kind of just thinking about the property aspect of it and the home and safety of the home. So it has impacted people in so many different ways. One more thing I'll add, Rob, is something as little as, I'm just going to start carrying pepper spray when I walk my dog.
Sure. Can
be considered, according to the therapist, one of those signs that you are dealing with a reoccurring fear or a community-wide secondary trauma. So I thought that was interesting. It was just a small thing that, I did actually hear from quite a few people. Oh, well, I just added a little pepper spray to my keychain.
I know my wife
other
has
than
pepper
that,
spray on her keychain just in case she's out and about. But you don't.
Right.
Yeah, because I think you see a tragedy happen and you personalize it. You say, "Oh my gosh, that could have been me," and so you want to take those steps to protect yourself. But one of the things that your special report will explain is that the likelihood of that is incredibly small.
Incredibly small, right? And we also dive into, if you have heard about violent crimes happening here in Spokane or where you live, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's in the same category as this violent quadruple murder. It's categorized differently, and that's something that I did learn from the Department of Justice report and the police department that have been able to communicate with me through this process.
You mentioned communication, and I remember growing up and our parents just saying, just text me where you are. Like, you don't have to come home. You don't have to, send me pictures or proof. I just want to know that you're okay. And I find myself doing that to my parents. If they were staying at a hotel in downtown, and when they were walking home to their hotel, I was like, well, just text me that you got there safely. I just want to know that you're okay. So
right.
You get that. And yeah, that communication's got to be very important. So what are some of the steps people are doing to continue that communication? I know you've mentioned something like a location sharing app.
That's right. And I thought that would be kind of the whole story when I initially started this. And then I realized that that's actually something that's probably going to be left on the cutting room floor, as we say, in video editing. I don't know that it'll make it into the special report. So it's great that we have this platform to kind of share those little details that, will probably end up on the web, but not necessarily on television. And one thing that I think is interesting among moms is a lot of us you're encouraged to get new apps, depending on if your child is in daycare or in school. Like for my daughter, a lot of people know about the Bright Wheel app. That's something that a lot of daycares have. So like Rob, you probably have never heard of the Bright Wheel
I
app.
don't know. I thought I knew all
had
the
never
apps,
heard
but I
of
guess
it.
not.
And then, yeah, it's kind of like a tell that you're a mom if you have the Bright Wheel app on your phone. But another one of them that I just learned from this actually not just this one mom, but my uncle and my aunt who have a college age student and just a lot of people, but I didn't realize, is called Life 360. And it's kind of like the location sharing that you have on the iPhone. So, you know, you can location share with your spouse or with your friends, let them know how far away you are if you're meeting for dinner, or, you know, if you're leaving work and you're trying to get home in time. But this Life 360 app is kind of taking it one step farther, and it says that, you know, it will send alerts, however many you want. Kirstin just arrived at work, because you can add where you work, where your son has soccer practice, where you know, you go to the gym, and so you can receive constant alerts through Life 360 about where your kids are, even if they're in a different state. And so it is a pretty cool way to communicate, instead of, I guess, that constant nagging of, hey, can you please text me when you get there?
Right.
I mean, that still works in my opinion, but it is another tool that some of the moms have shared with me, and they've said that they all use it, they all know it, and it does give them some peace of mind knowing where their kids are. And the other thing is, they have groups that you can create where you can share more details with. So like, hey, we're going out tonight. This is the party. This is the location that we're going out tonight. And so one of the moms I talked with said that she asked her daughter if she could be a part of one of those groups. So they had a conversation, right, about something that maybe was uncomfortable for her daughter, but she wanted that she wanted that added communication, and she was added. And sometimes her daughter's friends are the ones who are talking to her and letting her know where they're going to be. So I thought that was, again, just another piece. You might not think that you made changes. You might not think that this is safety related. But the bigger picture is really that everyone has kind of been impacted in some way by this. And I do feel like moms especially, sometimes we do so many things and coordinate so many methods of communication and routes to pick up and drop off and all these things that we don't even realize, yeah, I did make a change. And I hope that it does make me feel a little better.
Awesome. Well, Kirstin, your special report airs tonight, 6 p.m. You've been working on it for a long time. We're all very excited to see it. Is there anything else you want to add?
Just that I would love to connect with anyone who you know, is interested in this topic, or has just anything that they'd like to share with me about future stories. I am a reporter. I started as a reporter almost 10 years ago now, and I have moved all over the country, but I am still making connections to different groups here in Spokane. So if anyone wants to reach out and have a conversation with me, I am wide open with that, and welcome these types of digital conversations that you're having, Rob. My email address, in case people want to, I'll just plug it, why not, is kO'Connor@kxly.com. Please feel free to send me feedback, or just any comments that you might have. And
awesome.
Thank you, Rob, for having me
Kirstin.
on.
Thank you for hopping on. I appreciate your time, and I'm excited to see your report tonight. So thank you.
Wonderful. Well, I'll see you in about 2 seconds when I walk out of this office.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you, Kirstin, for hopping on with me for a second, just to chat about, get excited about her special report. Again, that airs tonight at 6 o'clock, so be sure to tune in on your television, or download the KXLY Plus app on your connected TVs, your Apple TV, Roku, and Smart TV. So we'll have all that coming up tonight at 6 p.m. and be sure to tune in to 4 News Now at 5. But for now, live in the KXLY Plus Digital News Center, Rob King, 4 News Now.